Hi, welcome back to my channel. It's the boy in blue, and I'm here to bring you my non-spoiler review for Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. So, my overall thoughts about the movie are pretty negative, and going in, I have to say that a lot of what people have said online, certain reviews, critical reception, and then, my friends on Facebook and whatnot, kind of panning the movie, had given me some pretty negative preconceived notions about the movie that I felt impacted the way that I saw the movie. So I will say that going in, I had to lower my expectations significantly so that I wasn't too upset with what I saw. That being said, overall the movie was very beautiful to look at. The cinematography was pretty good. Everybody looked good for the most part. The fight scenes were beautifully done. I had a little bit of issues with the last one, but we'll get to that later. But I thought that for the most part, especially all of Batman's fight scenes were just on point. Now, how do I want to go about this? I guess I'll try to talk about some of the extraneous plot stuff and some of the elements like the writing and whatnot before I go into some of the characters and how I felt about them. So the story overall was very convoluted. It was very convoluted. It was kind of all over the place. It couldn't really stick to any one thing. When I felt like it was going in one direction, it kind of just completely went another one, and not in a good way, because good complex story writing can do that, but in a way that's cohesive to an overarching plot, which I felt like that was not utilized here. Furthermore, as a lot of people have mentioned, the dream sequences were kind of crazy. I didn't know what was going on half the time, and in many ways, both of them. One of them happened in the very beginning of the movie. That one was probably the worst one for me. It was just kind of like, what the hell? And then there's another one that happens about midway towards the movie. I think there's maybe like three total. And then there's another one a little bit midway, the one before the last one, that just kind of was, I don't know about this. I wasn't a fan of those. And I'm not saying that like dream sequences shouldn't be used in like movies or anything like that. Of course not. As long as they're handled well and it makes sense to the plot, then sure, go crazy, do however many you want. But in this case, I just felt like we could have spent that time focusing on something else or on other people, other characters. Anyway, like I said, the writing wasn't great. The dialogue was kind of hit or miss with some of the characters. Lex Luthor's dialogue was terrible. Like some of the things he said, but I do appreciate Jesse Eisenberg really like going with it and kind of just like going all out with it, and I really appreciate that about him as an actor. That being said, I'll go into how I feel about the character in just a moment. Let's see. The reasons, Batman's reasons for wanting to fight Superman, I felt at first I kind of could understand it. I understand seeing him as a threat. That's a legitimate fear. As humans that we have. We're afraid of things that are more powerful than us and things like that, and that was definitely reflected in the film, I thought, pretty well for the most part. But then there were other things that were just blatantly ignored. I don't think it's a spoiler to say, assuming you've seen Man of Steel, I don't think it's a spoiler to say that the destruction to Metropolis in Man of Steel that happened between Superman and the rogue Kryptonians, such as Zod and Feora and all of them, was not all Superman's fault. He didn't do that by himself. He wasn't going around tearing things up. He was trying to take them down in a very sloppy, bad way, but still, there was a reason, and it wasn't all his fault. And I feel like Batman kind of treated it that way. I felt like a lot, some while again some of his reasons were valid. I felt like at some point, and in some instances, his fear and his dislike for Superman was pretty irrational at times, and I wasn't really a fan of that. Let's see furthermore. Let's see writing wise, some of the plot twists were okay. Again, it was a very visually stunning movie. That was probably the one thing that kept me from like falling asleep or walking out or anything like that. Not that I've ever done that in a movie, but I have fallen asleep at a movie before. Anyway, I just felt like the movie overall had a lot of potential to be great, and there's really no reason why it shouldn't have been, considering like all the money that they had, all the hype going into this movie and all the elements presented. I felt like it had every reason to succeed and to be the next big thing, but it just was poorly executed, and it just didn't come together well. A lot of things were great in theory, but that's another thing. It was overcrowded as hell. There was too much going on. Mind you, I am a comic book nerd. I love the Justice League, Teen Titans, the X-Men, and I like teams in the Avengers, and I like teams, and I like a lot of characters, but in film, it doesn't always work that way when you have a bunch of characters in one movie, because the more time you spend with one character, the other characters kind of suffer and don't get as much attention as they could get. And in my opinion, I felt like Superman himself did not get any sort of love in this movie. He was not treated well. He was not developed well. And that's something that I definitely had a problem with, and why I felt like it would have been much more beneficial to have a proper Superman sequel and then going into this movie, maybe afterwards, because it would give people more of an opportunity to kind of side with Superman and kind of, team Superman kind of thing. Because while, as you can see, I'm definitely a fan of Batman, I am also a very big fan of Superman. And between the two of them, while Batman is always going to be the more popular one, and everyone gravitates towards Batman because he's darker, he's grittier, he's more human, some people say. I actually disagree with people about that. While Batman does not technically have powers, the things he can do, this is in the comics, in movies, in series and TV shows, and in video games, the things that he can do and the things that he's like gone up against and like survived is literally nothing that any normal person could do, even with that kind of training. So writers are all the time having him do these impossible things, and it's just kind of like, oh, well, it's like, why can he do that? Why is he able to survive falling down from like freaking 60 stories in the air? His suit is usually armored, but like to that degree where it will save him from that kind of fall, it's like, oh, he's Batman. That's what a lot of people say in defense, and I just don't think that's I don't think that's good enough. I like other heroes who are a little bit more realistic, who go through certain things and get their legs broken and shit like that. Batman certainly has had his back broken by Bane, but that was, an instance where it was done for narrative. It was done for a story, and that's part of what made that story famous, is because Batman before that was pretty much undefeatable, and he's pretty much treated as such now. Now, anyway, kind of going into some of the characters, like the key characters at least. Batman, played by Ben Affleck, he was good in the role. He was very good in the role. I already knew that he would do well, but I didn't know how well, and he was great. He was really good as Bruce. But some of my problems with Bruce and Batman in this movie was a lot of his, like I said, irrational feelings towards Superman and a lot of things that happen. Now, of course, as you know, they end up fighting in the movie. And from the trailers as well, I don't think it's a spoiler to say this, that they eventually stop fighting and they fight against a common enemy, in which they are joined by Wonder Woman. What causes, in the movie, I'm not going to say what it is, because this is a non-spoiler review. What causes him to stop fighting Superman and for them to team up in this movie literally made me want to scream. I wanted to scream, get up, and walk out, but I couldn't do that because I was curious about what more would go on. It was just so stupid, and I intend to make a spoiler review and kind of delve into that a little bit more. But it was so stupid. It was such a coincidence, and it was the flimsiest reason for two people to stop fighting, especially if the movie tries to set it up in a way to where, oh, like Batman, this is a good logical reason why he would want to fight Superman and this and that. He's trying to think of the humans, and what if this god being, snaps, turns evil, and kills everybody? He has the power to kill everybody. And it's like, yeah, I can kind of see that. I don't agree with it because I know from experience and everything like that, and knowing who he is, that Superman would never really do that unless he were being mind controlled or something. But like, he's a good guy. He's never going to do that. But Batman doesn't know that because he doesn't know him. That being said, what causes him to deviate from that was the stupidest thing ever. It made no sense. I'm like, so basically, you're willing to risk humanity's fate. At least in your mind, you're willing to risk humanity's fate off of this one little thing that is just the biggest of coincidences. Really stupid, really sloppy writing on that part. Superman, played by Henry Cavill, he looks the part. He is very attractive. I very much enjoyed looking at him on screen. And he's not a bad actor at all. I just think that he didn't really bring any of the charm to Superman that he's known to have. But at the same time, I feel like it's the writer's fault because they didn't really give him anything to do to really showcase that kind of inner conflict of being like, an alien who lost his home planet, who is trying to make his way on Earth and trying to be a good person, and at his core is a very good person. I feel like, they didn't really write enough to show that. He was shown doing heroic things and saving people, which I thought was really great. I really liked that. But I feel like they could have gone more with it, especially like seeing how he feels about things for himself, because I felt like for the most part Superman was defined by his relationships to others around him, whether it was how the world at large felt about him, through his relationship with Lois, his relationship with his mother, and then eventually his relationship with Batman. He didn't really have a lot of agency and like feeling things for himself for the most part, other than like the whole, I want the people, like, I want to be there for the people, but they don't really trust me kind of thing, I feel like they could have done more to, like, make him more of a character. I didn't think he was quite Superman in this, and I thought that was a very sad, unfortunate thing. Wonder Woman was amazing. Gal Gadot she slayed in this role. Her accent was everything. I really enjoyed her in this movie. I know before I kind of complained about her being kind of skinny, but, at the same time, the Justice League version of Wonder Woman from the animated Justice League series, she was skinny, so it's cool. But anyway, she looked great. She played the persona pretty well. I really liked a lot of her lines. Well, some of them. There were like a couple that weren't that great, but for the most part, she was great. She was one of the better parts of the movie. Lex Luthor, again, Jesse Eisenberg, he really took it home. He really did his thing. At the same time, the reason why I don't like Lex Luthor in this movie is because I felt like he was miscast. Jesse Eisenberg, all respect to him. I know he's a good actor, and I actually like him, but I just wouldn't have chosen him for Lex. And two, he reminded me more of, like, the Riddler than of Lex Luthor. I'm like, this guy, the way he talks, the way he moves, he's so Riddler-like. I don't understand why people don't see that or could make that connection. But he was very Riddler-like. Yeah, Amy Adams as Lois, she's tried her best with these movies. I'm not a fan of her not having dark hair. Even if it couldn't be, like, dark brown, like, nah, bruh, she's Lana. Like, I'm not a fan of red-haired Lois at all. But she did her best. I like that they gave her more to do in this movie. But by far and away, I'm going to end this because I need to cut this off before 15 minutes. By far and away, the best performance of this whole movie was Holly Hunter as the Senator. She was amazing. That scene in the Capitol with the witness and what happened there and how she sold that performance, epic. She deserves an award. The rest of the movie, no.